Hello there guys, welcome to another of my live videos, and on this video there is lots to negotiate about. I am going to give you Manchester United's best players this week, and also going to go through with you who I think could leave Manchester United in the summer, because I do expect from my own perception that around 4 or 5 players will depart Manchester United in the summer. Obviously, it is a shame that, there isn't going to be any football at least for the next 3 weeks. Obviously, the Premier League fixtures have been suspended. The Premier League fixtures have been suspended. The EFL fixtures have been suspended. Obviously, the Champions League and the Europa League matches have been suspended for next week. I don't think yet UEFA have confirmed how long they're going to be suspended for. But if actually, the Champions League and the Europa League games weren't to be rescheduled this season, then that means Liverpool would still be the Champions League holders, despite the fact that Liverpool are out. But like I mentioned, a lot of matches across the globe have been postponed due to this coronavirus. And I still probably believe, from my own perception, even if the season was to be axed now and it wasn't to resume, I still believe Liverpool would more than likely be crowned Premier League champions. I'm very, very sceptical, that Liverpool would be denied the Premier League title, because Liverpool only need 2 wins anywhere to clinch their first title in 30 years. So I can't see, Liverpool getting the Premier League title taken off of them. Obviously, there has been a lot of controversial plans as well coming out of the media, saying that actually, there could be 22 teams in the Premier League next season. There could be up to 5 teams relegated, and also to the EFL fixtures could be axed, to obviously, increase the fixtures in the Premier League. But that's very controversial. That doesn't mean, it is going to happen and that. But yeah, and like I mentioned, Italy's in lockdown with it, and it's a really, really serious disease in that. But the main explanation why the Premier League fixtures have been cancelled is reflecting on what happened to Mikel Arteta. The good news is about Mikel Arteta is getting better, so he's self-isolated himself. Obviously now quite a few football players have been tested positive for coronavirus. So now we'll delve into it. So I think Manchester United's best players this week, I think definitely Odion Ighalo has been one of our best players. He's done really, really well, Odion Ighalo, since he's come in. He's, enjoyed a fantastic start to his Manchester United career. He scored a fantastic goal against Lask on Thursday evening. Bruno Fernandes had got the assist, but it was a lovely goal from Odion Ighalo. Odion Ighalo now has 4 goals for Manchester United in 3 starts, and Solskjaer has recently made an admission regarding Odion Ighalo, and he did say, he could decide to make his transfer permanent, Odion Ighalo's, because obviously at the moment we've got him on loan, we've got him on a 6-month loan, and we're paying like a third of his wages. But he's done really, really well as the Nigerian, and don't forget he's been a Manchester United fan since he was a boy. And like I mentioned, he is a good covered up to Marcus Rashford, and he is the vocal point. So he's been one of our best players this week as Odion Ighalo. Also too, Bruno Fernandes has done really, really well. I've got the same perception on Fernandes as what I've got on Odion Ighalo. Bruno Fernandes, look, he's enjoyed a fantastic start to his Manchester United career. He's got 3 goals for the football club. He's also provided 4 assists. This week, got an assist for Odion Ighalo's first goal against Lask. Got an assist last weekend for Martial's, opener against Manchester City. And Bruno Fernandes is definitely making the difference in the team. And I think at Manchester United now is replicating what he did in his 2.5 years at Sporting Lisbon. But I've got to be honest with you, I think Bruno Fernandes is one of the best players we've recruited in since the Alex Ferguson era. And we have recruited over 30-odd players in since the Alex Ferguson era. But, Solskjaer's actually, been urged to build a team around Bruno Fernandes. But yeah, very, very good player. And he is like 2 players in one, is Bruno Fernandes. Take him out of the equation, we do lack creativity in the team. Obviously, when Pogba comes back, we'll see more creativity in the team. And I think, they'll make a good partnership in our midfield, will Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes. So yeah, Bruno Fernandes has done very, very well. Also too, McTominay has also done very, very well. I've also got to give him a lot of credit. In the Manchester City game last week, he scored the goal from 40 yards out, which was very, very good to see. It did come from a calamitous mistake by Edison, but, it was still a fantastic goal from Scott McTominay. Don't forget, recently McTominay's just come back from a knee injury, and he was out for a while. But like I mentioned, McTominay this season has become an integral part of our team. And, I think he can emulate to the level, what he wants to get to Scott McTominay. But I've got to, give him a lot of credit, definitely in that. And I think he plays well alongside Fred in our midfield. Depending on it, I don't think it matters who he plays alongside. We just seem to get the best out of McTominay. Also, to Fred, I've also been very, very impressed with him. He's done really, really well. And obviously, when we had Fred under Jose Mourinho, he never really got his opportunities, so his appearances were limited. And he did receive a lot of criticism for that, did Fred. But Mourinho got criticised, obviously, for not giving him enough opportunities in that. And he was very, very good in Ukraine. But this season, he's been fantastic. He's been given his opportunities under Solskjaer's guidance. And he has confounded all his critics wrong as Fred this season, definitely in that. And he's a very, very good player, so I think he's been very, very good for us this week. He got 2 assists, don't forget, in the game against last. He got an assist, was it, for Matta's third, and he got the assist, I think, for Andres Pereira's fifth, was it, if I'm right. So, yeah, he had a really, really good game against last. So I've also got to give Fred a lot of credit. Juan Mata, I think, he's also done really, really well. He did really, really well in the last game. It was good to see him get his name on the score sheet, Juan Mata. He doesn't get in the team enough now, obviously, because he is aging up his Juan Mata. I think he's now, is he 31 or 32? He has lost that yard of pace. But Juan Mata's definitely, still one of the players I would be determined to keep at Manchester United. I'd be determined to keep him because I think he's enjoyed a fantastic career with the club. He's been a long servant here. Juan Mata now is into his 6th season as a Manchester United player. We did pay around £40 million to him from Chelsea. But he is still going very, very strong, to be fair, is Juan Mata. But his goal was very, very good against Lask. So, yeah, I think he's been one of our best players. Obviously, Anthony Martial, I'll put him into the equation as well. Obviously, unfortunately, he didn't play against Lask. But I thought he had a really, really good game against Manchester City last week. Martial got his name on the score sheet. Also created some good chances in the game, so he could have had more than one goal, could Anthony Martial. He's had a lot of injuries this season. That's really taken its toll on Anthony Martial. And this is one of the main explanations why he's probably had some bad spells as a Manchester United player, Anthony Martial. But got to be honest, recently he has rejuvenated himself. Obviously, he's been playing in that number 9 role this season. Obviously, that's not his predominant position. His predominant position is playing out on the left-hand side, is Anthony Martial's. Will Manchester United revert him back to the left-hand side, or will we keep him in that number 9 role? I think the main explanation why we're giving that number 9 shirt is because throughout pre-season, he was doing very, very well in that central position, was Anthony Martial. But, so he did really, really get well against City, but don't forget he made a collision, was it, with a goalpost, and he was involved in a challenge with Edison. And, this is how his injury occurred. Obviously, we know the game against Tottenham isn't going ahead on Sunday. But, Solskjaer did say before, obviously, the fixtures and that got suspended, he was hopeful that he was going to be back for Sunday and that, Anthony Martial. Our actual next game is Brighton on April the 4th. If the season, obviously, does resume from then. Obviously, there will be a decision made closer to that date, obviously. But I think Anthony Martial's also done very, very well. I've also got to give Luke Shaw a lot of credit because I think, he's also done well. Last week, Luke Shaw scored his second goal for the, in his club career with Man United. That was only his second goal in 197 appearances. But Luke Shaw's doing really, really well. And, he's confounded all his critics wrong because obviously he's received a lot of criticism as a Manchester United player as Luke Shaw. Obviously, he has received a lot of criticism, obviously, with his injuries and his poor run of form. But I've got to be honest with you, recently he has really rejuvenated himself as a Luke Shaw. And he has still got a lot of years ahead of him as Luke Shaw. And obviously, he's highly experienced, which is very, very good in that. But I've got to say, he's done really, really well as Luke Shaw. Now, Daniel James, I don't think he's been one of our best players. I think he's enjoyed a difficult month as Daniel James, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. And I do believe Solskjaer has been overplaying Daniel James this season. And, when we signed him, I expected him to get game time under his belt, but I didn't expect him to play as many games to the extent as he has done. I think it reflects on how good he did when he first came in. This is why he was playing, on a regular basis and that. And yes, fair enough, he's relieved Daniel James that he did end his goal drought because he did score against Lask. He scored the second goal. That was his first goal for Manchester United since the 31st of August. So, he hasn't been one of our best players, but I thought, it was good to see him score against Lask. He wasn't so bad in the Manchester derby last week. He did create quite a few good chances in that, which was obviously, very, very good to see. Nemanja Matic, he hasn't been one of our best players this week. I've got to say he hasn't, Nemanja Matic. But I think, he's really, really rejuvenated himself as a Manchester United player. Especially, when McTominay was absent, I thought, Matic did really, really well. And Matic is a backup to Fred and McTominay. Obviously, we do now know that Matic is going to be remaining at the football club, definitely. Because I think it did say the other week that he had agreed a new 2-year deal with Manchester United. I've also got to say, Harry Maguire, he's done really, really well. I've been very, very delighted with him since his arrival from Leicester last summer. Manchester United paid £80 million for Harry Maguire. He's the second most expensive sign at the club, and he's the most expensive defender in the world. And that we did overpay for him, but I've got to say he has done very, very well at the back as Harry Maguire. His distribution's very, very good. It shows that ability to play out from the back. So I credit Solskjaer for recommending Harry Maguire in, because it was very, very imperative, that we did get a centre half in. I think Harry Maguire's on 2 goals is it now for the club? He scored his first Premier League goal against Chelsea. And if I'm right, I think he scored against Tranmere, did Harry Maguire. So he's got 2 net goals now for the football club. Also, I think he hasn't been one of our best players this week, I don't think, Maguire, but he's still done well. I think Bay definitely has done really, really well. Look at some of the stuff he produced in the game against Slack. I think in the game against Lasker, I think he won more aerial duels. He made more blocks than Harry Maguire. So Eric Bay had an exceptional game, and I think since Eric Bay has come back from injury, he has really, really rejuvenated himself. And I've always, liked Eric Bay. I think he's always been a good player for Man United, but my only element of concerns about Bay is that he's very injury prone. That's my only element of concern about him. But we don't want to move him on because he's still an integral part of the team. Obviously, Lindelof and Harry Maguire are our first choice centre halves. But I think, now, actually, Bay could get there ahead of Lindelof. So it could actually, now be Bay and Harry Maguire as our first choice centre-halves. I'm not saying Lindelof's done bad. I think a lot of aspects of Lindelof's game have improved. But I think, reflecting on how good Bay is doing, he deserves more chances in the team. Definitely in that. Wan-Bissaka, I know he wasn't involved against Lask, but, I think he's been one of our best players this week. I thought last week against Manchester City, he was exceptional. Kept Raheem Sterling quiet all the game. And, aspects of Bissaka's game have really improved. He's showing a lot of attacking intent now, so the attacking side of his game has improved. His defensive contribution's very, very good, is Wan-Bissaka. And probably, is regarded as one of the best right-backs in the Premier League. Not the best, but I think one of the best, definitely in that. So, yes, I think, they've been Manchester United's best players, without a shadow of a doubt and that. Also, now I'm going to delve into the topic of what players I think Manchester United could get rid of this summer. I've been talking a lot with you about this, haven't I? So I think the players Manchester United could get rid of in the summer now. Phil Jones, he's one player. Phil Jones now, appearances are limited at Manchester United. He can't even get into the team, can Phil Jones. And Phil Jones has been a long-serving player at the football club. Jones is now into his 9th season as a Manchester United player, and he has enjoyed 8 years here. So he's one player we need to move on. I think we paid around £17 million in from Blackburn back in 2011, or was it 2012? But he has been here a number of years. So he's one player that needs to be moved on. Now, Chris Smalling, I think he's another player we'll get rid of permanently. Don't forget he's on loan at the moment with Roma. Is Chris Smalling. I think he's actually, supposedly doing very, very well in Italy with Roma. Is Chris Smalling. Obviously, don't forget Smalling did endure around 9 years at Manchester United, so he was a long-serving player with Smalling. I think we got him for around £3 million from Fulham at the time, but we did get him under the Alex Ferguson era. I think the mistake we did make last summer is that we should have got rid of Phil Jones instead of Chris Smalling, because they are totally comparison. I think Chris Smalling's a much better centre-half than Phil Jones in my own perception. So I think we could move him on permanently. Roma could actually, negotiate with us over getting, Chris Smalling on a permanent transfer. So, yeah. And I think another player Manchester United will get rid of is Alexis Sanchez. I think we'll get rid of him on a permanent transfer. Don't forget he's on loan at the moment with Inter Milan. Despite the fact that he's on loan with Inter Milan, Manchester United are still paying the vast majority of his wages. I still believe we're paying Sanchez around £300,000 a week, and Inter Milan are paying like the other £100,000 a week. But Sanchez, we need to get rid of him on a permanent transfer now. It's a shame that we didn't get rid of him on a permanent transfer before, but reflecting on his substantial wages, it was really, really hard to get rid of him on a permanent transfer. And Sanchez did endure a difficult 18 months with Manchester United. He had a lot of injuries. Obviously, I think he only made around 45 appearances in all competitions and only managed 5 goals, did Sanchez. And I thought when we signed him from Arsenal back in January 2018, he would have been an exceptional player for us, reflecting on, what he did in his 3.5-4 years with Arsenal. He also played under Pep Guardiola's guidance when he was younger at Barcelona. So I thought he'd have been very, very good for us. And I thought he would have been one of the best players we would have recruited in since the Ferguson era. But obviously, it didn't work out for Alexis Sanchez. And I think he's still got a contract with Man United until 2022. But obviously, if we get rid of him permanently, his contract to Man United obviously then will be terminated and that. So Inter Milan could negotiate on getting him permanently. I don't think he's been so good at Inter Milan, because I don't think he's had a lot of chances at Inter Milan as Alexis Sanchez and that. But yeah, I think, he's another player probably Man United will move on. But in January 2018, he came to Man United as part of Mkhitaryan going to Arsenal. Don't forget, it was a swap deal. So yeah, I think we'll get rid of him. Probably Lingard and Pereira are another 2 players I think Manchester United will consider getting rid of. Because like I mentioned, Lingard is a liability, and he isn't getting any chances now. He's been dropped out of the team completely, reflecting on how poor he's been. And since the arrival of Bruno Fernandes, Lingard struggled for game time. Also, too, Andres Pereira has struggled for game time. But I do believe they are 2 liabilities in that. And like I mentioned, reflecting on the number of years Lingard's been here, he should be putting much more better performances out. And so too, Andres Pereira, he should be putting more better performances out. Fair enough, he scored against last, but I don't think he's a long-term solution for Manchester United. Marcus Rojo, I think he could be another player we could move on. And he's on loan at Estudiantes at the moment, so he's reuniting now with Argentina, because actually, he began his career in Argentina, did Rojo. Obviously, Rojo did serve around was it 5 or 6 years at Man United. Yes, he did. I think we paid around, was it £14 million from Sporting Lisbon, if I'm right. It was somewhere on that figure. And yeah, and he had a lot of injuries, to be fair, as a Manchester United player, did Rojo, but I'm very sceptical that he will come back to Manchester United. So we'll get rid around 4 or 5 players in the summer. Now, I want to give you some news regarding Marcus Rashford, by the way. I think he's expected to be back for Manchester United in 3 weeks' time. I think as give an actual... It's actually given the month when he's going to be back. I think he's due back next month, which is April. I don't think it's give an exact date of what, an exact date of when Marcus Rashford's going to be back. But I do believe he's going to be back in April. So probably, will play again for Manchester United before the end of the season. That's if the season does resume from the 3rd or the 4th of April. Rashford, of course, has been out with a back injury, and you can say he has been a big miss, but Solskjaer did make the mistake by obviously, playing Marcus Rashford in that Wolves game. If he hadn't risked Rashford in that Wolves game, probably more than likely this injury, wouldn't have occurred. And that Rashford up until this point has spent the entirety of his career with Man United. He's been a United player since the age of 7. He's been in the senior squad with us since 2016 and that. And definitely since he's broken into the senior squad, he's become an integral part of the team. Rashford's made over 200 senior appearances for the club and scored around 63 senior goals as Rashford. But like I mentioned, a lot of aspects of his game have improved in that, which is very, very good to see. So Rashford's expected back in April, and that's if the season does continue to resume. He did say he would be involved in the Euros, but obviously, the Euros I think are going to be cancelled now until the summer of 2021. So obviously, that won't be happening now. I want to give you. I've obviously, been keeping up to date of what's been going on with Paul Pogba, haven't I? Obviously, Solskjaer has recently confirmed that Paul Pogba will remain at Manchester United next season, which is very, very good news. Pogba himself did say earlier on in the week that, he's keen on staying with Man United and he wants to commit his long-term future with the football club. Now, I think the main explanation why Pogba wants to stay is because of Bruno Fernandes. He's aware of the impacts that Bruno Fernandes is making, and he's excited about the prospect of playing alongside Bruno Fernandes in our team and that. Now, obviously, Paul Pogba's interested in extending his contract with the club. Obviously, at the moment, Paul Pogba's got 1 year left on his contract with an option of a further year. So put the other option of a further year into the equation, it's basically 2 years he's got left on his contract, and he's on around 290 grand a week at the football club. Now, obviously, since Paul Pogba rejoined Manchester United back in 2016, he has been subjected to a lot of transfer speculation. Obviously, this year has been a lot of narratives in the mainstream media about him going to Real Madrid or making a return back to Juventus or possibly going to PSG. Last summer, he was subject to a lot of transfer speculation. Last summer, his preference was a move to Real Madrid. Obviously, back under the Jose Mourinho era, there was a lot of talks about Pogba, leaving the football club because he did have a bad relationship, with Jose Mourinho, did Paul Pogba. And Pogba got one of his best wishes when Jose Mourinho did leave. But Pogba's appearances have been limited this season. He's only played 8 games this season. He hasn't started a game from the start since September, and he hasn't played for Manchester United as Paul Pogba overall since Boxing Day. But you can still say he has been a big miss as Pogba, definitely in that. But yeah, Solskjaer did reveal that, earlier on this week before the last game and that Pogba was set to return to training next week. And, this is what he said, and he basically said, he was close to returning and he was stepping up his fitness regime, was Paul Pogba. But Pogba has sustained quite a few injuries as a Manchester United player. So looking likely now he will be at Manchester United going on into next season. Maybe it could be dependent on if Man United get qualification for the Champions League and that. But obviously, Man United are making a lot of plans for the summer transfer window. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of players on our agenda who we could go in for. And, Ed Woodward, was talking the other week and he did say, he's determined to back Solskjaer because he said he was going to, we're going to lay the foundations for long-term success with Solskjaer and that. And he's determined to back the signings that he wants in the summer. Solskjaer wants Ed Woodward to take drastic action, of getting the players that he does want in and that. But, the players that are on our agenda, of course, Jadon Sancho's on our agenda. Jack Grealish is on our agenda. There's been a lot of talks about Harry Kane coming in, Jude Bellingham and that. So I think in the summer we're going to spend over £200 million on bringing more players in. Solskjaer did reveal that he thinks, we need around 3 signings this summer if we are to be title contenders. If we are to be title contenders and that. But Solskjaer did reveal he still wants to continue the policy of recruiting young players to Manchester United and that, like I said. But obviously, reflect on this, outbreak of the coronavirus and all that, and, with the league fixtures and everything else, being suspended, does it change the context of the league? Like I mentioned, Liverpool should get the title, but it's not assured that they will get the title if the season, doesn't resume. Do we get qualification for the Champions League? That's another question mark. Do we get qualification for the Champions League? Because we are fifth at the moment. Obviously, fifth place is a Champions League spot at this moment in time, reflecting on Manchester City's ban from the Champions League. But also put into the equation, reflecting on this virus and that, teams are going to lose money, a hell of a lot of money. Businessmen are going to lose money in that. So, yeah. So it's going to obviously, change a lot of things. Obviously, the teams in the bottom three of the Premier League, are they going to be relegated if the season doesn't resume? Obviously, you've got Leeds that are top of the Championship. Do they get the Championship title if that doesn't resume? What about the Championship playoffs? That's another question mark. The Championship playoffs, how the Championship playoffs going to go ahead? That's another question mark, because they always do the Championship playoffs. And same with League One, same with League Two and that. What about players' contracts that are due to expire in the summer? What's going to happen with that if the season doesn't resume? Obviously, fans that have got season tickets probably more than likely will get refunded, more than likely. But yeah, this has changed the hell of a lot of things, as this coronavirus. But like I mentioned, revert back to what I said at the beginning of the video, Liverpool cannot be denied the Premier League title and that. But would Solskjaer still stay at Manchester United if the season wasn't to resume? I probably believe he would still stay at Manchester United, because we've been in a good vein of form recently. We're unbeaten in our last 11 games in all competitions. In this 11-game unbeaten run, we've won 8 games. We've drawn 3, we've scored 29 goals, we've kept 9 clean sheets, and we've only conceded 2. This is our best vein of form since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the interim manager and that. But yeah, I would be determined to, keep Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Whether we qualify for the Champions League or not, I would probably now still be determined to give him another season at the football club. And if he is to be given another season, then he knows, he's got many expectations to exceed in that. And we've got to hope that the Europa League games can be rescheduled. We've got to hope that the FA Cup games can be rescheduled, because, like I mentioned, the Europa League's a priority for us. It's a chance for us getting some silverware on the board. Plus, it's another route to Champions League qualification, and the FA Cup is a priority for us because, that's a chance of us getting some silverware on the board, because we haven't won out yet in terms of silverware under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and that. So put that into the equation. So reflect on all of this now. Solskjaer faces an unprecedented challenge as Manchester United manager and that, because if the season wasn't to continue, would he be still Manchester United manager, going on into next season? And, there is a lot of question marks regarding that, to be quite honest with you. But Solskjaer's been here over the year now. He's now been here 14 months as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Nearly 15 months now, should I say. He's been permanent boss now for almost a year. We give Solskjaer the job permanently, reflecting on what he did when he was the interim manager. So let's just put that into the equation. But we are sitting fifth in the Premier League, and we are only 3 points behind top 4. But like I mentioned, Manchester United are one of the biggest clubs in the world, with a fantastic history, fantastic fan base. We are the most successful team in England with 20 titles, 13 Premier League titles and that. And yeah, so I'm still very sceptical about Solskjaer being a long-term solution for the club, but it wouldn't really solve any problems, would it, if, we was to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Because there hasn't only been a problem with the management, a lot of our fans this season have had doubts about the club's ownership and Ed Woodward, etc., etc. And, like I mentioned, there's still problematic players at the football club. But on the other hand, there's still deficiencies in the squad that need to be addressed. Since Solskjaer's coming, he's recruited 5 players in 3 transfer windows and spent in the excess of £220 million. We were supposed to be playing Tottenham this weekend. Obviously, now we know it's not going ahead. And it's a shame because, Solskjaer was looking to beat Tottenham for the 3rd time as a manager, because he's already beaten them twice already. Don't forget, he did his press conference building up to the Tottenham game. I think this was before the league games and that were suspended. He was talking about Jose Mourinho and that, and he was talking about how he had to change Manchester United a lot after Jose Mourinho's reign, because Solskjaer replaced Jose Mourinho in December 2018. And Solskjaer did say that Manchester United need to be overhauled after, Mourinho left, because obviously Solskjaer is inheriting the vast majority of Jose Mourinho's players, because analyse the vast majority of this team, it is Jose Mourinho, so put that into the equation. And Tottenham really, really struggling. They're sitting 8th in the Premier League. they're like, what, 4 points behind us. Their only ambition now, if the season does resume, is to finish 4th or 5th because they can't win out in terms of silverware. But, you know, there is a lot of people, you know, a lot of Tottenham fans. You've also got a lot of West Ham fans that are saying the season should be void completely. Obviously, Liverpool won't want the season to be void in case they don't get the league, but I think it's more than likely they'll get the Premier League title. Even Arsenal fans are saying the season should be void, especially, you know, with what's happened to Mikel Arteta. But, you know, I don't know if the season's going to resume or not. Some people believe it won't resume. I think an official spoken to Sky Sports, and, you know, he doesn't think the season will resume and that. But like I mentioned, Man United have done really, really well against elite opposition this season. I think we've registered 17 points against the big six this season and that. But, you know, hopefully going on to next season, we can enjoy a better season next season than what we've seen this season and that. But yeah, like I mentioned, you know, we've already sacked 3 managers since the Ferguson era. Moyes went, Van Gaal went, and Jose Mourinho went. So Man United are not really known for the sacking football club. But you can see what Solskjaer's trying to do. But, you know, we've really, really improved since Fernandes has come in. You know, we're playing as a unit, we're playing as a team. The football's more expansive, we're scoring more goals, we're creating more chances, and that is very, very good to see. So anyway, guys, that's everything to update today. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless. See you all again very, very soon.